about that a little bit later.
Nikki Kay.
Mr Chair, look, I'm very pleased to be speaking on this piece of legislation, the Local Government Act 2002 Amendment Bill. Can I start by acknowledging the hundreds of submitters that we had from around New Zealand? We have had comments from opposition members that this was not a comprehensive process. Well, actually, we heard over 7 days, and we also heard in many different cities in New Zealand. So we went to Hamilton, Canterbury, we were in Wellington, we were in Auckland. This was a very comprehensive process. The second thing that I'd like to say, I want to reinforce the comments of the Honourable Nick Smith. The Labour Party and members of the opposition, in my view, are showing how out of touch they are with so many New Zealanders at the moment that are concerned about the costs of living and are concerned about rates. Every day as a constituency MP, I see through my office issues of hardship. And for members opposite to argue a position that there should be no change, I think, is negligent. Now, in terms of this bill, we've heard a lot of issues around the numbers. Well, can I take you through some of those numbers? The first point that I'd like to make is it is correct that the costs that we have seen in terms of local government have quadrupled, and that is a fact. Now, look, there have been many people who have raised issues around where those costs have gone, and that is actually crucial to this debate. The reality is that some of those costs are to do with infrastructure. I accept that. I accept that some of those costs are to do with infrastructure. But the issue here is whether we can do better in terms of local government and reduce the cost to taxpayers and local residents by actually having more efficient government and also re-clarifying the roles. We've heard from opposition members all of the scare stories, and I'm sure we're going to continue to hear them, because to tell you what, Mr Chair, we heard these same debates and these same issues raised by opposition members when it came to Auckland local government reform. And I want to address that for a moment here, because what was one of the most fascinating things about the submitters that came to our select committee is there were a number of the local boards in Auckland that actually talked about how successful the Auckland local government reforms have been. And I want to take you through some of those successes. Some of the successes, $140 million of savings in the first year. We've seen water rates reduce. The real reason for the differential in terms of rates is the fact that we have had huge infrastructure deficits in Auckland over a long period of time. We've had fractured government, and I'm very pleased to say that through this bill, we actually had a whole lot of local representatives saying how good the system was. And why I want to raise that is when we had those Auckland local government debates, we heard from people like Phil Twyford. They went around with the same arguments. They raised fear, and they also said this was a loss of local democracy. Well, my message to members opposite is it is not acceptable to say that they care about issues like affordable housing when they're not prepared to make changes to refocus local government to ensure that we have more reasonable rates in this country. That does not mean because prior to 2002 we didn't have the well-beings. That does not mean that there will be certain things in the community that people will still be able to do. All it means is that this government is being fiscally responsible and clarifying the role of local government. And my message to members opposite is they raised these arguments of fear and local democracy last time, but the facts are clear in Auckland. The facts are very clear that we've seen reduction in water rates. We've also seen a reduction in the costs of local government. This bill is about refocusing the purpose of local government while also ensuring that our wonderful local representatives across the country get to deliver for their communities. But for members opposite to argue for no change, in my view, is negligent, because at the end of the day, people out there have high costs of living at the moment. And when we see issues like housing on the agenda, it is incredibly important that we do deal with issues of land supply, that we have a credible housing plan that looks at the costs of infrastructure, looks at the issues of our land supply, and not argue for housing raffles on fake prices of $300,000 a house. And I'm looking at Annette King right now. I would like Annette King to give us a list of those $50,000 housing plots in Auckland, because they don't exist. The reality is we consistently hear from members opposite We hear not properly detailed costed policies. We hear for no change. This government is about real change.
Chris Farfoy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for an opportunity to speak to